Kind of like Wolverine.
Well, welcome to the Gordox Pub, where we serve everyone. Everyone is welcome. Just don't be a jerk. That is not my best intro.
Wow.
Welcome to the Gordox
You don't
Pub.
have a best until you're done, right?
That's true. But there will be plenty of stinkers along the way.
Right.
Which is pretty much how writing goes. So I
What's
was
that?
kind of thinking about that with writing. Like, aside from the Harry Potter series, what has J.K. Rowling written?
She wrote under the name what? Robert Galbraith?
Yeah, she wrote something else.
Yeah, she was writing mysteries, but she wrote it under a different name. She wrote it under a pseudonym, like a guy's name.
Yeah, but it did nowhere near as well as Harry Potter.
Well, it did because she ended up saying, "Oh, this is me."
I
So-
still don't think that's as good. I mean, I would bet the
Well,
numbers were nowhere near.
It's not gonna be the same as Harry Potter because it's not gonna reach the same amount of fandom because
Right.
it's a different genre completely. It was like a murder mystery or something like that.
Yeah.
But
And
that's not Harry Potter. Like that sense of awe. Remember we're talking about David Fallon talking about the three beats in young adult fiction being, or young adult fantasy fiction being that sense of awe. That's one beat that you have to hit. Humor, that's another beat that you have to hit, and then horror, right? But that's not going to hit some of those beats when you're doing like an adult murder mystery. You're not going to hit some of those awestruck beats or wish I could do that type thing.
so, first off, I just want to throw this out. But think of your top writers, and very few of them can do it without a series. And those that do have a series rarely can do more than one series that does as well as the whatever made them famous. But like if you look at like Stephen King, he has the Dark Tower series for fantasy, but he has managed to write in just about every genre, and they're always successful.
Well, a couple of things that you're going to have to note.
Okay.
Stephen King did not start writing a series.
That's true. He just wrote individual books.
Well, and this is what I'm saying. Dean Koontz does that too. He succeeds at that too. Why? Because they did not start writing series. They wrote individual standalone books, and that's what they made their name on. So when they started expanding into series, they could expand into anything because they'd already touched into all these different subjects. Whereas if you start with a series, like say Bernard Cornwell, he started with the Richard Sharp series. So everyone thinks of him as a historical fiction author and a historical military fiction author. And it's for the most part true because that's basically what he ends up writing. But like if he interjects, like he wrote a 4-book series that was I think a thriller based on like boating in modern day, and it didn't do anything near what the Sharp series did, what the Last Kingdom did. They're doing the Winter King right now, and there's his Grail Quest series. They're all excellent, different points in history, but they're definitely history. And when he went out of that comfort zone, that's what they expected, then he didn't sell as well either. But like I said, everyone expected a new Richard Sharp book. Everyone expected a new Uhtred book. You see what I mean?
Yeah.
Because he's written 13 Uhtred books and 33 Richard Sharp books, you know? So, yeah, that's kind of what you're going to expect. But I wanted to also touch on the fact that the other side of that is that if you sell, say, 2 books that are fantasy, that's what you're going to be expected to put out by your publisher. Your publisher's not going to want to buy an untested thriller from you because you're already branded for fantasy. And publishers push characters itself. So if you write something like The Rise of Locke Lamora and that sells, they're going to push you to write more in that world, more in that setting, and more with those characters, which is pretty much where he's trapped. And I think he's like written 5 books, and I don't know if he's written anything else. So if you want to write in a vast amount of genres, you got to do that from the start. Stephen King was writing short stories of every different genre and publishing them in every different magazine that bought them in the day. Like he would publish in Playboy and he would publish in Boy's Life. He would publish, like everything. So you can't really do that nowadays. You have to do that on your own. You have to market yourself or self-publish or something like that because publishers don't want it. They want you to write in what the audience is like, what the audiences are looking for. But they often forget that you wrote your first book because you love that subject or, that was a story that meant something to you, right?
Right.
And the rest of them, it's a question of whether you're going to write like that. Like when I said Dean Koontz wrote like Stephen King like that too, he has written sci-fi, he's written fantasy type stuff, he's written historical type stuff, he's written time travel type stuff, he's written straight out horror, he's written psychological horror, he's written spy thriller. Like it's all kinds of different things, but that's what he reached out to, that's what he did, and we can expect him. So they call Stephen King Master of Horror even now. Yeah. They don't advertise him for Master of Fantasy, even though he's written fantasy. They advertise him for Master of Horror because he put horror in his fantasy. They can excuse it or whatever. And yeah, he's written all different types of stories too. Like I think some of his best work is like The Shawshank Redemption. I think is one of the best movies produced from his work. But yeah, The Green Mile, that kind of stuff. It's odd that it's prison type stories, but I mean, there's a fantastical element to them. But aside from that fantastical, well, I guess just The Green Mile, right? There's not one in Shawshank. So, yeah, I mean, he doesn't venture far from the weird type of story that he normally writes. It's just whether or not it's speculative or not. So far as I've read, anyway. And Koontz is like the same thing. He has certain elements he likes. He likes that thriller aspect. He likes the kind of you're on the go, you're kind of fast-paced stuff. And I've noticed that most people that write across certain mediums, like you can even look at Michael Crichton as that, because even though he tried to base his stuff in current science, he wrote ER, he wrote Eaters of the Dead, which is the 13th Warrior. He wrote Timeline, and then he wrote Jurassic Park. They all have elements of what was current in science at the time that he wrote it, but they're all different types of story. Like, Timeline's not the same type of story as Jurassic Park. Eaters of the Dead, which is, 13th Warrior, is not the same type of story as, say, Westworld. So, I mean, that's kind of what I'm saying. When you think of Clive Barker, you think of horror, right? But if you read widely enough, it's really weird, dark fantasy stuff more than horror outright. I mean, he's got some outright horror, but for the most part, it's just kind of a weird, dark, fetish fantasy type stuff. And that's what he prizes himself on, is the weirdness. But that's what I'm saying, is like I'm going around the bush about this, saying it, but they all have elements. Like Stephen King, you're going to know that it's Stephen King when you're reading it. Like the way he treats the characters, the way he the weird elements that he likes to pick up on, and the weird idiosyncrasies for his characters that he likes to pick up on. You're going to see that throughout his stuff, no matter what genre he's writing. And it's the same thing with Koontz. It's the same type of characters, the same type of weirdness and discovery or whatever. So I think that's another thing too, is that the publishers pigeonhole you if they can, because they know it's a moneymaker. But you also are going to always kind of circle around the things that you normally like anyway. I guess I'll go back and do some work.
I can do some art.
Yeah, I'm not claiming it's art, but, something.
Whatever. It's art.
I intend to come back through this stuff and give it more dimension, but I want to do a little bit more than the layout.
So
I could spend most of the day shading in each character, and,
Okay. Getting back to the writer stuff. I saw this video today about the Young Avengers and how there are people pushing to get this made, and Marvel's been kind of pushing it. But it looks like it's going to be dominated by characters that did not do well on Disney Plus. It's really the Disney Plus Avengers, because you're going to have like Kate Bishop, who was the Hawkeye replacement, the switch, the bait and switch Hawkeye. Ms. Marvel, I think that's what her name is. American Chavez, which I guess that was a Doctor Strange one, but there was another. I don't know if Echo's going to be in it, but I mean there's going to be a female-centric Avengers, all younger, and
well, they're doing that for a comic book too.
Right, I know that, but Marvel's been saying they're going to cut back on how much they produce so they can produce better quality. And they're going to try to give the audience what it wants. And then they start. Young Avengers, I don't see being what the audience wants.
Yeah, that's the other thing that I was going to say, is that one of the things that it's Marvel's, but it's owned by Disney, so. Yeah. One of the things that they're messing up on big time for the long-time fans is that they're choosing more obscure characters to focus on. They're not doing the characters that should be in there.
Which is funny, because I think they looked at, like, Iron Man wasn't a top-tier Marvel property. I mean, he was, I would say, second tier.
He's gone back and forth between...
Right.
That's like
I've always liked him.
Namor was always like that too, and he had a group. He had the Defenders.
Right. And they never seem to be able to do a Fantastic Four very well.
Yeah, because they're idiots about it.
Yeah.
Every single time.
I know. But yeah, but I kind of think they looked at they did some of the lesser characters first because that's all they had access to. And they didn't own the rights.
When they cast, they should do other than casting Couch to get good people.
I'm just saying, it seems like they took like this random success of Iron Man, which wasn't the best known character at the time. And they're trying to recreate that, so they're trying to use lesser known characters. But it's like, they're lesser known characters because they're not that good, and you happen to get the right actor for the right part at the right time. The idea that you can manufacture that, if you can, you're better off than I am, but so far they haven't done it. So, I look at some of this stuff, and this goes back to the writer thing, I promise. Marvel is currently...
It's all writer, really, what we're talking about, so... I mean, even if it's comics, I mean, we're also talking about comics, so...
Right. But Marvel is making a decision to put forth a product. It's the product they want to put forth. And they have every right to do that because it's their product. But and this comes down to that kind of that balance with, writers that get stuck writing in the genre because that's what they started in, or writers that have a really popular character, and so they got to write about that character all the time because that's what the audience wants. That's what sells. It seems to me that Marvel would do better to have kind of a two-tier system where on tier one is these are the easy money makers. These are the things that will make, it's printing money. And then you have your tier two would be experimental. These are the characters that aren't necessarily well known, or these are passion projects from people at Marvel or whatever. And if one takes off,
James Gunn's running it now, so I mean, it's all about what he wants, really.
Well, that's DC. This he's not running.
No. He's not in DC anymore. Oh, wait a minute. No, you're right. It's the other way around.
Okay, I was like,
he went from Marvel to DC. Okay, you're right.
Yeah, because he's the one that decided to get rid of Henry Cavill, and I think that's just...
Yeah, to replace him with somebody that looks pretty much like him.
Yeah, I don't get it, and I... oh well, whatever.
Most people don't.
But it all goes back to, do you give the audience what it wants, or do you say what you want to say? And it's awesome when those two are the same thing.
Oh, but that's actually... No, go on, because that's actually a subject that we were just broaching.
Right. So, I mean, really, do you do what... I mean, that's why I think Marvel kind of needs a two-tier system, so they have one thing with everything that everybody wants. And then experimental, tier two, those are the passion projects, the smaller budgets, but you're trying things. And movie studios used to do this. There were whole studios designed around the idea of smaller films that were more experimental, And that's how we got a whole bunch of great movies in the 90s. That's how you got like Fight Club and Seven and stuff like that. Like they were willing to do smaller films.
What?
Well, theaters or studios used to have smaller studios that would do smaller projects. And in the 90s, you had people that were doing stuff on a much smaller budget that those movies actually did really, really well. This is before the superhero craze, but it allowed movie theaters to kind of, or not theaters, but studios to have kind of a system to test out product without having it cost $200 million like what The Acolyte, I guess, has cost for 8 episodes.
That's not a whole lot on a scale for a movie, and 8 episodes is longer than a movie. So
yeah, but it doesn't. Trust me when I say this.
I'm not justifying the expenditure. Well, that's all I'm doing is justifying the numbers. Or that's not outrageous, is what I'm saying. That's not outrageous for.
Someone said that The Acolyte looks like a WB show, and I can't get that out of my head because the CGI is not that good. It's just not. And like there are certain things about The Acolyte that I truly enjoy. But it actually started in Ahsoka that I noticed it, and I've enjoyed it now in The Acolyte. And that's this fighting style that I think is they kind of did a little bit of it in Ahsoka, and then they've really done a lot more in The Acolyte, and I enjoy it because it's a defensive form where they're not using their lightsaber normal. Like they literally just they dodge and push back and stop blows, but they don't necessarily start off with the lightsaber right away. And that to me makes a lot of sense, and I enjoy it. Like I just think that's a neat. That shows you how strong and powerful the Jedi are. I don't need a weapon to fight you. That kind of thing. But whatever. Hey, lightsabers are cool, but it doesn't have to be the solution to everything. Just saying. Seeing different fighting styles, I've always enjoyed it. That's like if you watch the Netflix series of Daredevil, and then watch Iron Fist, the fighting styles are dramatically different, and it's just something that I enjoy seeing. I guess I enjoy seeing that kind of thoughtfulness and the physicality. It's not just the same thing or the same style, but it's very different. And knowing what I know about martial arts, then that makes sense because there are certain martial arts that they do one thing better than something else, and you just that's why you have mixed martial arts now. But anyway, getting back to the thing though is like, should Disney really only do or Marvel what people want? Or because if you only do what people want, you don't always know what you want. Like people didn't know they wanted Iron Man when Iron Man came out. There were some people that wanted it, I'm sure, but they didn't have high hopes for that movie. The fact that it did as well as it did was awesome.
Some of it's got to do with who they chose to play the part. Because really, Robert Downey Jr. was the perfect guy to play that part. Yeah. He really was all the way around. I mean, he looks the part. He believably acts with that condescending "I'm better than you" attitude that really Tony Stark portrays. So what I was looking for and what you were helping me and Jake was helping me find, actually Jake found a link on a different John Brown part that tells that it's that is the three grunts are in How to Write Science Fiction and Fantasy, which I kind of suspected that might be true, but
Oh, I think I gave that book away.
yeah, I have a copy, but I thought it might be true. What I mostly got out of that book was the mice quotient. But yeah, like I think I picked that up and I just didn't realize I picked it up because it's been discussed other places. So so the relevancy of that and the reason that I asked about, if you could find that link for me, and anyone that's watched probably has seen us talk about the three grunts before.
Yeah.
But so somebody posted, Leonard Cornwell said, basically not to let people critique your stuff. At least that's how it's getting taken. And I think it's something that was not a full quote, like they just kind of took part of it. But it says, Bernard Cornwell's tip for aspiring writers: write for yourself first. Lack of confidence is the biggest threat to a new writer, so don't expose your work to the criticism of anyone who isn't an agent or publisher. And Mark Lawrence, who is another writer and writes Grimdark, says, I can't agree with this at all. You're highly unlikely to secure the criticism of a publisher or agent unless you first hone your craft. And for almost everyone, that requires criticism. And then he said the biggest threat to a new writer is the belief that someone who didn't write the text will take from the page the same thing you do on reading it. Critique will help you to understand how others make sure what's in your head makes it back. But I've seen Bernard Cornwell talk about his method of writing, and he originally read like C.S. Forster, the Hornblower books, and broke down how they built, how they went from one point to introduce the character and so on, and then how they, kind of forced into the action, or where he gets in, crosses that threshold where he can't turn back or any of that. Like, he doesn't break it down that way, but he breaks it down by beats and breaks it down by anyone that reads that type of fiction where they should be expecting it. And then after he wrote quite a few novels that way, he doesn't really think about it anymore because he's already broken it down that way so many times that he kind of incorporated it into his natural storytelling part. So he's not saying that you should send your first draft out. And I think that's kind of a misgiving. But say Hemingway's first novel probably wasn't workshopped. In those days, I mean, you may have a writer's group, but it was only a couple of friends or a couple of people that you associated with through school or college, or or correspondence in the mail. You weren't really relying on a whole bunch of criticism. You were relying on whether or not you wrote what you intended to, right? So you went back and you read it aloud, and when you read it aloud, you come across mistakes as you're reading and come across mistakes as you're hearing it, or the pacing, or whatever, as you're reading it aloud. So it was a different level of workmanship and craftsmanship in Cornwell's days. That's like Orson Scott Card said he didn't have to publish a first novel since 1977. So how could he give you advice on how your first novel publication in 2020s? That's a long time, and things have evolved. But the amount of valuable criticism versus, and you know this too, like we've been through massive workshops or writers groups, and how many of them don't try to help you so much as tear you down, or they don't add anything valuable by saying, "Oh, I don't like this kind of thing," like
just
if you don't like a name, that's not a valuable criticism. If you're confused because 3 names sound alike, that is. You know what I mean? Yeah. But beginning writers don't know how to separate that sometimes, right?
Right.
So I can see Cornwell's comment that, don't let anybody else critique your stuff or criticize your stuff. And that's another thing too. Criticizing and critiquing, in my opinion, are 2 different things. And criticizing is only with the intent to point out weaknesses and flaws. And critiquing is only to the point of trying to make that manuscript stronger, right? And I think that's why it's so valuable to do the 3 grunts, because the 3 grunts, you don't get involved in trying to prescribe how to write something. You just identify what bores you or what confuses you or what you just don't buy.
Right. Well, I don't know if John Brown changed his webpage or if I don't remember it the same. But that page I sent you, I'm going through it, I'm looking over it. It's been a few years since I've looked at his stuff. I have one of his books on writing. But he was talking about being on target, and the 3 grunts help you dial in if you pay attention to the responses. But he was also going through and talking about how really the 3 grunts are probably the biggest players, but he had another one.
The complimentary part.
Yeah, but really it's just anytime if you're targeting a certain response, like this is what you want from your reader, then any response can help you figure out if you're on target or not. So,
actually, if you read that section, and I just read it before I came live, he's talking about also that some people are not valuable responses because they are not your target audience.
Right.
So they're not going to. He said, what did he say? If you ask someone that doesn't like sushi, they hate sushi, to taste your sushi and tell you if it's all right, you're not going to get a valuable answer, right? And so his 4th grunt wasn't really a grunt; it was the other way around. It was to say what you like in it, so that, and it's for the same reason that you're talking about, for identifying if you've achieved what things that you were trying to like what you did right versus not just what you did wrong. Um, but he doesn't say that everyone's advice is valuable. I guess everyone that bothers to read my stuff, I will take as valuable. Because they took the time to read it. Like, he read the first 2 chapters of my novel, right? And remember what he said?
Yeah.
It's definitely not what he thinks it is, because he didn't get enough out of the first, I think, 2 chapters to know what the actual book is about. He only got the beginning, and the beginning led him to believe that it was about something that it wasn't. I mean, it ostensibly is, but it isn't. Because he's like, oh, it's just revenge porn, and it's like, it's not revenge porn. It starts off being about what they think is justice, but they end up really seeking redemption for what they were doing, right? So it's a change in their person, their character, which couldn't be achieved without seeing what the lengths that they went to, right?
Right.
To further hatred, I guess, for lack of a better term.
Yeah, but that's still information that's useful. Because
it's only useful if I believe that everyone that picks up that novel and reads the blurb on the back is going to think it's just revenge. See what I mean? Like, it is not.
You know that you have to that might need to be addressed. Like, John Brown could be wrong because he's a human being and human beings are wrong.
Also, he has a religious predilection.
Okay.
And that will set certain opinions.
Right. So it means that he might not be the target audience.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. And that's what he was saying also. So,
but it's still something where it's like, all right, if it raises a concern that you might look at. And if other people were to raise the same concern, then it becomes a bigger concern, I guess. And I find that to be valuable. But it's one of those things where it's like, I mean, like, if you're painting something and you decide to go with one color scheme and someone's like, I like the composition, but I think it needs to be blue instead of red, and you're like, okay, yeah, that's cool, but it's not to say that it might not have been cool in blue, but it was your painting, you wanted it in red. So predilections aside, but if everyone's like, oh man, oh no, this red seems to be the wrong color, then you begin to realize, all right, if I want to sell this, I might want to do a blue one just to see what's there, see if that sells better. It's market testing, kind of. And
I'm not saying it wasn't valuable, because that's what I said at the beginning, is that I take everyone's, if they bothered to read it, I will take in consideration what they're saying, because they bothered to read it. but I will be able to tell by their comments if it's the type of story they would normally read anyway. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so, uh, if you're reading a story about a character that changes who they are and how they are, say for instance Scrooge, right?
Right.
We know that Scrooge is going to change his whatever, he's going to change his personality completely. But at the beginning of that book, and for a good chunk of it, you don't know that shit. And that's not saying anything about John's critique, except for that he didn't read the complete thing to critique it.
Well,
that's like the first 13 lines, right? If you read 13 lines, the job is to hook you, not to make you understand the whole story in 13 lines. It's to give you an idea in those 13 lines of what type of story it is. Like,
that was one of that Lies of Locke Lamora thing. His first line is like, it's an entire paragraph. It's 4 lines long. It's one sentence, 4 lines long. And I'm like, yeah, you're trying to do too much. I mean, I'm enjoying the book and partially frustrated that I think it's better than anything I've written. But that part kind of annoyed me.
It goes through its stages. Some of it you'll like, some of it you won't.
Sorry if I interrupted your train of thought. I don't. What people kept trying to do? They try to cram everything into 13 lines. It's just like, okay.
Oh,
sure.
I was just saying that the idea of the first 13 lines is a hook.
Yeah.
It's doing enough within those first 13 lines, because this is for people who don't know. That's usually the space you have on a short story that's written on the first page. So the actual prose on a short story should be about 13 lines on the first page. So what you've got to do, your job in that 13 lines, is to make the editor turn the page. To make him or her want to read what's next.
Right, but I've seen lists of things that people say you got to have in your first 13, and it was like longer than 13 lines.
Oh yeah,
list.
I've seen a lot of that crap too, and that was one of the things that Hat Track was good for. Was that they really went through. Kathleen did a good job of going through and explaining that you're supposed to give them the feeling of the information you should be able to impart is what the genre is by the way that the prose is. Even if you're writing somebody saying something or somebody's thinking something and they think of a Lucifer match, right? That's thanks to you. But that kind of identifies the time period.
Yeah.
Whereas nowadays they use a lighter, or they use there's other kinds of, or they use just a pen, for when you're actually lighting anything.
Yeah.
So that identifies the time period. So you want to identify the area of time period that you expect, so that you expect whether, or so that the reader doesn't expect it to be swords and sorcery when it's really a modern heist job, right?
Right.
You want to identify the genre. So that's what we're just talking about. So you want to identify what kind of story it is, kind of where it's set, inside or outside, for starters, just to know that you're in a setting and it's not a floating head. and you have to have a character that you can attach to. Now, what they were saying in the first 13 there was that you had to have a character with a name. But if you're writing first person, I suffices for a name.
Right.
Until somebody else naturally names them, not going out of your way to make it sound or make the name appear.
That's annoying. I tried to do a quick search for what you needed your first 13 lines, and I'm not finding it. Because now I want to have that list. I want to have a list, and I want to.
It's just basically identifying a character, something going on in a place that's understandable, and to give you an idea of what genre you're reading. So the hook could be the character. It could be the setting, so that it's something they're doing right off. But you want to have a hint of a conflict or goal. Now, you don't have to have the main conflict. You can have a temporary conflict that just pulls you along until the main conflict shows up. But when stories cease to have a conflict, that's when they get either boring or it's over. Because if there's no conflict, whether it's a mental conflict, conflict within, physical conflict, verbal conflict. Like there's so many different types of conflicts that would be valid, but it's just something to show you that it's not humdrum, it's not just easy, right?
Right. Because
you don't want your character, like we were talking about, if a character cries, right? The problem with a character crying is that it releases that tension that's created by conflict. Hey, Mark.
Mark, are you having a stroke?
I think he's trying to say he fell asleep.
Oh.
Which is, akin to having a stroke with the excitement of this show. He's basically saying we're putting him to sleep.
Sorry.
All critiques are valid.
I didn't say that. I said
Huh?
that.
I said that. I was being facetious.
All right.
Somebody last stream was saying that they liked the banter, right?
Mark said, "How do you know I'm very low on sleep and just drove for a couple hours? No, so far your show is rolling." Oh, Mark knows how to lie.
What? Intro. Means somebody's making him watch it.
So, not that I want to dogpile on the Acolyte, because again, I will say this: I think the fighting style that's in the Acolyte is really interesting. I dig it so very much. It's just that they keep doing things that are dumb, like having a Padawan order a Jedi Knight around, things like that. It's just not. Oh, you're a female Padawan, so you get to tell the male Jedi Knight what to do. I see how that works. I got it. Okay. So, some of those things are a tad bit problematic. But they also, the lead actress was in some interview for some other movie, um, and she said that she wanted white people to cry.
What?
Okay, yeah, that's literally what she said. Um, the goal was to make white people cry, or that was one of the goals,
Well,
or something like
they'll
that.
see her paycheck and they'll do it.
Yeah, but here's okay. So this all goes back to the: do you write what you want to write, or what people want to read? Hopefully, it's the same thing. But if it's not, which do you do?
Cornwall was saying, write what you want to write.
Right, and I generally agree with that. Um, it depends on, do you want to be published or you want to be a writer, and those are two different things. That if you're lucky, they correspond and life
I
is
don't.
good.
I don't agree with that. I don't agree with it. Depends on whether you want to be published, because Cornwall got published writing what he loved to write.
And I'm saying that I'm not saying that they're exclusive. I'm saying occasionally that lines up well. But what happens if what you want to write no one wants to buy? You don't get published.
Well, that's that whole theory that if you're passionate about something, someone will be passionate about it too.
Well,
You are
okay.
not. You are not. You don't exist in a vacuum.
But-
Somebody else will like it. And like for instance, I don't like. You can talk to me about sports if you want, but my eyes will probably roll back in my head.
Yeah.
There are some sports I watched for a while.
I'm going to bring up sports later on, just so you know.
Yeah, I probably won't care then either.
No, you will. See, I will make you care.
But the thing is that
I will say what I want to say, and I
Stuart
will make you
Wood-
care. What?
Stuart Woods is a best-selling author writing about sports crimes, which
Not for me.
yeah, that wouldn't be something that I would normally go in to read. But if it's a bestseller, then somebody liked it.
Yeah, but just
He was
because
born
you're
to piss
passionate
out of
about
movies
it
because
doesn't mean you're going to
of
get published.
sports things. But what's that?
Just because you're passionate doesn't mean you'll be published.
Well, these days, yeah, it does.
Okay, you can
may not be
self-published.
published by
Anyone can
a-
become published. Doesn't
It may
mean you'll
not
have a
be-
career and write, being published. Vanity Press is a great thing, but it's not really the same thing.
Now we're going to talk about how invalid it is to self-publish,
No,
because
I
the
think
gatekeepers are putting out shit that you don't like right now. So, what about that?
I didn't say that, Rich. I've never said that.
You kind of implied it.
No, I'm saying that just because you can be published doesn't mean you're making a living through publishing. And I'm saying if your goal is to make a living through publishing, that's a different goal than wanting to write. And if you want to write, which I think I will write no matter if I'm getting published or not, that's one thing. And if I'm lucky, I'll be able to make money off of it. But if someone wants to publish, and that's their main goal, or be published, or make a living through publishing, then
There's many ways to make a living through publishing.
yes, that's why tons of people do it. That's literally true.
How many
Tons of
books
people
are
do
published out there? How
What?
many people self-publish that make a living off self-published stuff? There are a lot right now.
And
So-
there are a lot more that don't.
What you're saying is really, if you want to be published by the main publishers or the big three or big two, or
No,
whatever
I'm
it
saying
is
if you
now,
want to make a living from publishing. And there are not a lot of people whose main income is publishing. Not compared to the people who can't make a living through publishing. And I think those are two different goals.
there are a lot of people that are able to sell themselves, to market themselves, if they take the time to market their own work,
And
that are not necessarily good enough for other publishers or whatever, but they develop a fandom that
And-
can make a living at it. There are plenty of them. I see them all the time.
Okay, well then, I guess what you're ignoring is the part where there are a lot of people you will never hear from or read their stuff, and virtually no one will read their stuff because whatever reason, the fates don't line up right, whatever. They wrote something that no one else was passionate about, or the people who are passionate about it are so few that you can't find them. There are lots of people who try writing. If it was easy, I mean, basically it comes down to, Rich, why are you and I not, super megastars of writing?
Super megastars or making a living or publishing, they're all different things.
I agree.
And
we got back to that.
How much marketing have you done for your stuff? Like, I haven't done much. Like, I've done some stuff on Facebook, but really I haven't marketed my stuff.
And again,
I sell pretty regularly, so the stuff that I like and I write sells. That's,
Okay, well, then I guess my point was wrong. I guess everyone can go out and write books and get published, and they will have a following, and they will...
You're doing that thing again where it's either or.
Yeah, because every time I bring something up, you just say no.
I just said that you can still publish without... If you're writing what you love, you can still publish.
And I said, but are you going to make a living from it?
If you persevere enough and you sell it right and you market well, you can make a living from it too. A lot of people just don't want to. I'm not saying it's possible that everyone's going to go out there, but I'm also saying it's not impossible just because you write what you love.
I never said it was impossible.
You just said it's in one of the two categories. You either write what you love,
I did not.
Or hopefully that will just, that will work out with what everybody wants to buy. Well,
literally, I said that there are few people who get to write what they love consistently, and they make money off of it. And then there are people who are going to write what they love that will never make money off of it. I said there are both people. And the majority of them are people who are never going to make money off of it. And I simply said that I think you have to know what your goal is. Do you want to be making a living through publishing because that will affect how you write and what you write? Or do you just want to be a writer and that will be, it's a different goal and it's a different effect on your writing? That's all I'm saying.
But that also implies that if you want to make a living, you can't just write what you want to. But
literally, I said you could. I 100% said there are people who get to do that.
What did you just say about it?
I said there are literally people who get to write what they want to write, and they will make money off of it.
And then?
But the majority of them are people who you're never going to hear from.
Nope, that's stopping short of what I'm talking about that you just said. You were talking about if you want to sell, if you want to make a living at it, like that's, if you want to make a living at it, you got to work at it. You will hear constantly that perseverance sells more than skill.
I never questioned
that. But that doesn't have to do with subject matter. I guess that's what I don't know.
Because I think subject matter will determine how much you have to persevere. And I think there's a limit that everyone has, and those are their individual limits. Because some people have more perseverance than others. What?
I said that's a different statement that I can't agree with. It doesn't say that what you're writing makes a difference. It says what your perseverance and how you treat it makes a difference. And I agree with that.
And I think that the content will affect how much perseverance you have to have.
Okay. I'm not saying that that's true or untrue because I have no statistics to prove it. But I'm not arguing that. I'm not saying that you won't have to work harder. I'm just saying that it's still possible to write what you love and publish and make a living.
I never said it wasn't.
And even if you can't sell it to the big companies, it's still possible. These days, it's much more possible.
But again, I simply said that I think you have to, as a writer, decide what your real goal is. And if you think I want to write, and if I get published and can make a living off it, awesome. But no matter what, I'm going to be writer. That's a different form than, and that's not saying that you're not working at it. Like that's, you want to write, cool. So you're writing. That's work, right? That's 100% work. You're going to keep on doing it no matter what. Okay, great, wonderful. That's one goal, is I just want to write. And I think I want to be published, or I want to make a living through, having my work published. That's something different. And it's awesome when they line up. But I think it's best if you kind of know ahead of time. And I think it's better to say that, I guess that's my personal opinion, because if I was making a living off of writing, I would still be writing. And if I'm not making a living off of writing and I'm still writing. It's not my goal. I would like to be published. I would like to make a living off of it. But my goal is I got to write. That's it. That's all I'm saying. There's a two goals. And now I forgot where I was going with that. Oh, yeah, because we were talking about the Acolyte, and we were talking about how the one woman said that she wanted to, on a previous project, one of the goals was to make white people cry, which is a lot like where they go through and they talk about how, like, they did She-Hulk, and they're like, yeah, we were trolling the trolls, and we were trying to piss off the base, and we were, all this. They're being confrontational with their writing. And it's like their goal is, because they know they'll be published, for some reason they just want to piss off the people that don't agree with them. And I don't know anyone that's...
Publicity is bad publicity, right?
Well, I guess, except for...
Is
that really building their brand?
I'm not saying that that's true. Yeah, it's building their brand, but their brand is much more political in nature than skillful in nature. They're not saying I write the best Star Wars stuff or I write the best She-Hulk stuff. They're saying I can write to fit the current political climate or what they think the current political climate is.
Well, I just think that the confrontational nature of what some of these people are doing, it makes no sense if you're trying to build a brand. Like, and I'm not saying they need to change
the alienate. It's just that you're not trying to alienate people too. Right. But I think that's the thing, is that they're making the statement is that I don't care if I alienate you, because if I do, you're not my audience anyway. That's what the hell is that chicken that writes for comic books saying about that shit? What comic books have you been reading if you don't like politics? And if you don't like it, don't read my comics.
And then nobody read her comics.
What's that?
And then, not nobody, but very few people read her comics. And they didn't. I know who you're talking about. I don't remember her name. But yeah, I remember saying something about, if you don't like my comics, stop reading the comics. Don't read them. They're not for you. And it's like, oh, but my money is mostly for you.
With the qualification, girls have always been in comics, so get over it. Like, that's like that whole homophobic thing, okay? Some people may be scared of gay people. But you know what? Most people that get accused of being phobic are not scared. They're just sickened. That's not the same thing.
Yeah.
I'm not saying right or wrong. I'm not making any claims on it except for the fact that that's a word created to make somebody else's opinion not matter.
So I was thinking about how they're being confrontational, which shuts down the people who, they're shutting down people who they know they're going to shut down, which is why I don't understand, what was the point?
Right.
Whereas if they were engaging and tried to actually make it persuasive in a way, not forceful, and not, you actually try to, you take somewhere where they are and you try to stretch them a little. But you don't blame them if they don't like it. You just go, oh, you didn't like that. Okay, maybe we'll how about this version? Or how about this? You are trying to respect your entire audience. And I was thinking about this because this is where I bring in sports, even though I don't like sports either, because sports ball. Do the thing, score the score. But
I just haven't believed that sports have been an honest competition for a long time.
Well, so Caitlin Clark's been in the news quite a bit because she's being targeted in the WNBA. A lot of heavy fouls and a lot of people just complaining about her, and a lot of it's because she's for whatever reason she has made viewership of the WNBA like huge compared to what it ever was before. Just the numbers are just staggering. And everyone points to her as the reason why people are actually paying attention to the WNBA. And you have these other people that are part of the WNBA who don't like her, and they're rather upfront and honest, because she's a woman and she's heterosexual and she's white. So apparently the WNBA doesn't like that, or a lot of people in the WNBA don't like it because they're secretly racist and sexist. But so Caitlin Clark's getting all this abuse, and she so far has played it smart and been like, nope, we're just going to play the game. We're going to make she is being engaging. She is making people want to watch the game, and she's not dealing with the negative actors. She's going through and she's saying, all right, I see how you play that game, whatever, but I'm going to do, I came here to play this game and play it the way I want to, and hopefully I can beat you on the court. That's what people came to see, is to see us, put a ball on a hoop. And I find that interesting compared to the writing world too. You have people, professionals, the mainstream, who seem to just hate the core audience and people who want to appeal to the core audience, and they're confrontational. They're not trying to win you over. And I think Caitlin Clark, while I don't think she's necessarily going out and trying to win you over, she's not going to be confrontational. She's at the very least not confrontational. So that if you enjoy her, fine, enjoy her. If you don't, okay, whatever. She's still going to play basketball. But you don't have to like her. And I think that's part of the appeal. People are glad that they get to decide if they want to like her or not. Like, I personally don't care because I don't watch basketball. But I do find it interesting that you have all these people complaining about the best thing that happened to the WNBA since it was created. And they're complaining about her, making a big fuss. And it just goes to show these people don't understand audience. Like, they are making Caitlin Clark into something bigger because they're confrontational with her. And she doesn't have to do anything other than put a ball in the hoop and score points. Apparently she scores a lot of points. So she gives the people what they actually want. And, they don't like it. It's the same kind of thing. I was thinking about that with, did you see Eminem released a new album?
No, I wouldn't.
Well, so
I really don't care. So I mean,
well, that's fine.
Like,
he's released more than one that I have no idea about. But this one happens to sample "Abracadabra" by
Gabble? No.
Who is that by? The same guy that did the Space Cowboy and the Midnight and all that stuff. God, now I can't remember the guy's name. Must find. Who wrote Opera?
Steve Miller.
That's it. Thank you. I kept thinking Stevie Ray Vaughan and knowing that was wrong. Like, that's not Stevie Ray Vaughan. Definitely not Stevie Ray Vaughan. I mean, Steve Miller's great. Don't get me wrong. But I don't think Steve Miller would compare his own style of writing with Stevie Ray Vaughan's.
Well, no, because Stevie Ray Vaughan was blues, and
yeah,
Steve Miller is kind of pop, like pre-pop.
Yeah, but so Eminem has this new album out, and I've seen these videos where a whole bunch of black rappers are talking about how hip hop and rap are a black art form, but the best person to do it is a white guy. And
no, that's gonna start shit anyway.
Well, I agree, but I mean, it's just interesting. So I started looking more at what Eminem does and their evidence of how good he is, and I have nothing really to base it on because it's not exactly my style of music, but some of the stuff he does lyrically is actually pretty interesting. In fact, I was listening to the new song, and some of the stuff he does, the way he rhymes and links it to things, is actually how I tend to think about setting names. Because he takes something, he'll make a statement or whatever, and then kind of riff on that statement, and then take something that people are familiar with and kind of link it in. And it was interesting. I was like, oh, that's actually kind of smart. So there's something to be learned from that. And he gets confrontational. I get it, but he also provides stuff that people want. So,
well, that's part of what people want is confrontation.
Yeah, and that I don't know why artists fighting with artists is entertaining for people, but
well, it's not just artists; it's rap artists. They're recording this shit, throwing each other back and forth.
Yeah,
but I don't think half of that stuff is real anyway. It's just put on.
Yeah. Although, I mean, sometimes the conflict is useful if it's competition, I guess. Like I think about John Lennon and
presented there. Like I don't even listen to him, and I know it's presented as competition, but it's silly competition. It's almost over the top, silly.
Well, yeah, but I think if it pushes, like I was thinking about John Lennon and Paul McCartney, especially after the Beatles broke up. They were still friendly, but there was definitely a rivalry, and I think it helped push their music. So I can see it can be useful. It's only when they start shooting people that I'd be like, okay, I think you took it a little too far. Nobody needs to go out like Tupac again.
Yeah, but that's not really competition then at that point.
Yeah, that's just confrontation. Or it's the most aggressive game of dodgeball you'll ever hear about. So earlier today, I was going through and write down some ideas to talk about, like stream. That's kind of my job. Because Mark isn't doing his. Barely leaves 4 comments. Gosh, Mark. Anyway, I don't even know if Mark's still there. But I was writing down, I wrote down background versus on the page. And your question about Mastiff that you sent me, I think is a great example of that. Although I might not, I guess for the viewers, I probably should have some other example. And so I'm going to actually use Wolverine for this. Okay? Because we both know about Wolverine. Most of our audience, will know about Wolverine. But you know how Wolverine, at one point, his name was Logan, and he didn't really have a last name, and I never really told you what his name was, and now it's...
And, well, it went through some changes, so even after Origins, they're claiming that that's not the real history, so
James
Howlett... It's a little late to backtrack, but yeah, they're trying to backtrack now.
Okay, well... That was a question that I think was, until you have a really good reason for it, should have just stayed background information for the people behind the scenes. Because it didn't need to be on the page, and the mystery of it actually made it entertaining.
Well, I think the issue with Wolverine is they had played out the mystery. And
yeah.
They didn't know where to go from there except for revealing a mystery. But they also didn't focus on making it like a satisfying result.
Yeah, I think they kind of promised something more than what they delivered on.
Well, yeah, I mean, I don't know if they promised it, but I think that, they the readers put more on it than just this is the story. They wanted something that was going to be kind of outstanding. They wanted something that was going to be satisfying from where Wolverine came from. And the thing I think they really failed on was that they didn't make him anything important. They made him a mutant that was not wanted, and that's pretty much it, right?
Right.
So instead of being like, and his half brother was legitimate or whatever, but nobody really wanted to see that and just be put so plainly. And then him run away into logging camps and basically run away from everything. Because Wolverine's not the type to run away from anything. Right? That's totally against his character. And that, it could be argument, it could be an argument that they Disneyfied him. Because, Wolverine's not known for running away from stuff. He's known for not only running into stuff, but if he can't run into it, he usually has Cyclops or Colossus throw him into it. Yeah. And that's like what they did with Colossus. Now he's dead, right? It's like,
is he?
Oh, yeah. He was Juggernaut for a while.
I saw that.
And then, he's dead. It's crap, and I guess it's really crap for me because he's my favorite X-Men.
Really?
Yeah.
He was not my favorite.
That's okay.
I didn't dislike him. Like, when I think of the X-Men, I think of a very particular team, and he's on it. So I have no problem with that, and I don't have a problem with him as a character. He was not my favorite.
Well, he's an artist.
Okay.
He's an artist. He was protecting his sister. You know, there's a lot of qualities there that I find familiar.
Okay. I don't dislike him. He's just not my favorite.
Oh, that's okay.
And
That's what I said the first time too. That's okay. It didn't have to be your favorite to be my favorite, but I think it's crap that they killed him off because they were starting to do things with him and give him a potential where it wasn't just he was a goody two shoes.
Right. Yeah. See, I think that was originally my problem with him was that he seemed kind of one note. He's the big, strong man of steel. I mean, that's literally what he was. And he was useful, and I was glad that he was there. I did not find him as interesting. So, and of course, everybody likes Wolverine, or not everybody, but you know what I mean. He's the most popular.
Well, yeah, because he's the most, unpredictable. Well, used to be the most unpredictable anyway.
Yeah.
And I find that people are polarized on both Wolverine and Scott Summers.
It's because they did some weird stuff with Scott Summers.
Well, I don't know if it's that or because he's basically was a goody two shoes leader and couldn't stand Wolverine or was able to hold him back or whatever over the love triangle that was going on between him, Wolverine, and Jean Grey.
Yeah. But anyway, I was just thinking, there are some things. I don't think everything has. I think sometimes it's good for us to know. I don't think you have to know those things, but sometimes there are, and I think you're really good at. This is what I meant. I don't know. It was a couple streams ago. I said that some of the questions you asked don't need to be answered, and that's kind of what I've been thinking about. Is that you're interested in like there are questions that come up in reading where you're really good at just wanting to know more. And that's not a problem. Like it's really not. It
just struck me funny. You're really good at wanting to know more.
Well, it's just one of those things where some people will just accept it. They just consume whatever's there. It's they speed through a book and all right, that was a book. I read it and move on. Okay, you are digesting things. You are tasting things. You are, sussing things out. And, some of the stuff that we do as readers is you will find that readers will make predictions over what's coming. So they want to know information to see if their prediction's right. And you don't always have to say or answer that question right away. So you can let some of those questions remain unanswered, and it's not a bad thing to necessarily do that sometimes. And I'm not saying everything you ask for is like that.
Letting questions go unanswered to the readership is not necessarily the same as the partner who's helping you tell the story.
Well, I agree, but here's how I look at that, though. Well, there are times where I will write something and I do not have an answer to it because I don't need an answer to that because I know where the rest of the story is going, right? Like, it's just not a factor that's going to really fit in. And that happens. So even when it's when you're by yourself making your own thing, there will be things that you haven't thought about. Eventually, you're going to get to the part where there's something you haven't thought about, and someone else will be interested in that. and you can see this on like panels of writers and comic book artists and stuff where, you know, you'll have some guy and they normally make fun of it because you're like, in episode 23 of the fourth season, your character said, you know, they go through and give, and the actor is like, sure, because the actor hasn't thought about it either. Whereas the audience, at least that guy, thought about it. You know, it's just one of those things where you just didn't think about it. And I think it's okay to, you know, as the creator, to say either, you know what, I haven't thought about that. That's a really good idea. Maybe I'll explore that. But, and this kind of goes back to, who's the guy that did the stupid Game of Thrones? George R.R. Martin, saying that he doesn't owe an ending to anyone. While I don't necessarily like that sentiment, I do believe that he's kind of accurate with, if you just didn't think about it, it doesn't necessarily have to be answered. And maybe it's something that you'll explore later.
Well,
so,
you know, that's different. That guy fucking made millions off of the expectation that there's an end to that story that justifies the beginning.
Well, I agree with you.
That's book with everybody losing in the family that was supposed to be the good guys, the protagonists, and everybody lost. So he kind of made an unspoken promise that things would get better for at least some of them. And
well, I agree.
It appeared that it was going to, you know what I mean? So
I agree with your sentiment. Like I understand why you're upset with George R.R. Martin. And I agree with.
Well, I'm not upset. It's upset would imply that I care. What he did was make me not care.
Okay.
I mean, that's really what he did. He didn't make. I don't hate him. I'm not hating on him. I'm completely indifferent. I'm not buying any of this shit because he ain't gonna write the ending because he doesn't owe you an ending. So okay. If you don't want to owe me an ending, that's fine. I'm not spending any more of my money on it. I'm not even fucking watching it for free. I don't care. He's made me stop caring. That's, you know, that could be the fourth run. No, I guess that would be kind of fit in with the boring one, right? Why should I care?
Bother? Why bother if there's no end?
Yeah, why should I care? That is the actual. That's
although we read comic books,
why should I care? So, yeah.
People read comic books that never end, or watch soap operas that never ended.
Well, but the difference is, nobody expects a soap opera to end. They never have. Soap operas don't end. Comic books have arcs. They have certain stories. And they put them together when the story ends, and they call that a graphic novel.
Yeah.
Okay, so it might be a 2-issue run. It might be a 5-issue run, but there's an ending to the story. If you read Sin City, okay, like I've got the complete Sin City. But if you read the Sin City arc, Marv's got a story. It's a story that begins and ends.
Yeah.
Inside of that story, he runs into other people that you don't see him tell you about, but you see in their story. Dwight's got a story. He's got 2 stories because Dwight had a change of his face. He looks completely different. When you see it in the movie, it's not the same. There's only part of that story. That's only the first half of that story. Because Dwight ends up pretty much, I think, living with the prostitutes. But they all have their own separate story. Prostitutes have their separate story. Daisy, or not Daisy, is it Daisy? Trying to remember her name. Marv's story was really based on trying to find her killer. But anyway,
I'm just saying. While I don't think that you should have novels that don't end, or series, well, I won't go that far. Generally speaking, I like to know there's an ending. I mean, I stopped watching or reading Wheel of Time because of that.
well, yeah, Brandon ended it, and I was disappointed in that too. Because he's the only reason that Robert Jordan disappointed me with that is because instead of him finishing the story that he was supposedly one book away from, he went and started a prequel. And Martin did too. That's the House of the Dragon crap. But Jordan died before he could finish it, so he had enough notes for Brandon Sanderson to finish it. You know what I mean?
Right.
So there is a little bit of difference in that. But
yeah, but I was done.
He set the standard for that. That's actually, believe it or not, this is going to be ironic. That's actually why I'm not reading Brandon Sanderson's monster novel, his Doorstoppers, the Stormlight Archives, until he finishes them, because there's supposed to be 10 volumes, and I think he's on volume 5 or something like that. I'm sure that he's going to finish them, but I'm not going to start them until there's an end.
Okay.
But Brandon has been consistent in ending his story.
That's true. Even on stuff that didn't, that's what actually really attracted me to the Mistborn series, was because I knew it went on with Wax and Wayne, which was same universe, wildly different.
The same
levels.
Story though.
Yeah,
not even the same people.
Right. I wanted to see how he did that. Like, I was like, oh, I like that.
I had. So I talked to Brandon at the Superstar.
Oh yeah.
But I also.
That was before he was super huge then.
That was just when he was breaking it big.
Right.
Matter of fact, like he and David Farland had toured together doing book signings and stuff like that. But I met Dave Farland there also. But, not to get too far off track, he was saying that he has plans to take that universe, to take that world, the Mistborn world, into the future. So he wanted to go medieval on one series, like medieval-ish on one series, Western-ish on one series. So he could go to like the World Wars in the next jump, and then
the
Vietnam era, and that in the next jump. It just he's able to play with that, and then he can just skip right to forward if he wants to. But what I'm really interested in seeing is when he takes that magic system and puts it in the future.
Oh yeah, that'll be nice. I'm giggling because the message I just posted, I'm hearing in your voice, and it just makes me laugh.
Yeah. I'm probably one of the only people you'll ever meet that doesn't really like the sound of their own voice.
Well, whatever. The whole live, laugh, and love thing, just I don't think either one of us is a big live, laugh, and love type of guy.
I don't
I
know.
mean, I like living and I like laughing and I like loving, but that's not the
Well,
sentiment I'm normally espousing.
I lean libertarian, except for the part that they don't, you know, promote my beliefs, like as far as religious beliefs. But I do agree with the non-aggressive principle and the idea that government should not be in our business until it needs to be in our business. And
No, until we need it in our business.
yeah, well, that would be the same thing from my point of view. Like, I don't think it needs to be in our business until there's something that we need arbitration, undisputed arbitration over, I guess. But I don't believe in starting shit with somebody else. I believe that we should be all able to live our lives the way we want to, as long as we're not messing with somebody else, right?
Right.
So that's where I say I kind of lean libertarian, because those are the principles that really are more accurately what I believe. Although I am a Christian, and so that dictates some of my beliefs as well, just like Brandon Sanderson and John Brown and Orson Scott Card are Mormon. LDS, I guess, is the preferred pronoun. I don't know, preferred title. They prefer to be called LDS instead of Mormon, so I will call them LDS.
I wonder why. I mean, I'm not a Mormon or LDS or whatever. I mean,
wonder why? Because LDS means Latter-day Saints.
Yeah, I know.
And Mormon doesn't mean Latter-day Saints. It means another book.
Okay.
I'm guessing a little bit on this because I am not Latter-day Saint either, but so I guess what I'm saying is, though, they because of their religion, it kind of directs some of their viewpoints. And I'm not saying anything about their religion either way, just that it directly affects how they see things or perceive things or their opinions on things. I also believe, and this is going to sound odd if you didn't hear me say this before, that Brandon Sanderson, Orson Scott Card, Brian McClellan, pretty much all those guys have their unique magic systems due to their beliefs, religious beliefs. Why, you may ask?
Okay, why?
I was just being silly because that's the natural question, right?
Okay.
Because one of the beliefs in the LDS religion is that eventually they will be made a god of their own world. That is, I like, for the most part, the only precept that I can think of that distinguishes them from my Christian beliefs. Because I don't believe there's going to be any other gods, because God was pretty clear about there being no other gods. But because they believe, there are going to be other gods of other worlds, they start thinking about what they would do with power, right?
Okay.
Or godly power.
All right.
So that's something that's on their mind naturally. And I'm saying, as opposed to, like, I wouldn't just naturally think about that kind of stuff. I might if I was writing fantasy, but if I'm not a writer, then I wouldn't be thinking about that kind of stuff. And I think it works the opposite way for them, that they become writers because they're thinking about that kind of stuff. Brandon Sanderson thinks about magic systems all the time, and I just don't find it odd. And have you read the Alvin Mitchell series?
I read the first book.
So the more you get into that series, the more Alvin's powers are very much like becoming a new god. And how his arch enemy through the series is like it's a different god just concealing itself as what it is. But Orson Scott Card addressed that, and he said that, like, he doesn't intentionally put LDS beliefs in his work, but because he is LDS, they're going to find their way in anyway. Because those are his values. For instance, and this is not the same for everybody that's LDS, because Larry Correa is LDS also. But you'll find in Brandon Sanderson's work, in David Barlin's work, in Orson Scott Card's work, and Brian McClellan's work, that there is pretty much no sex, or very, very little, and it's way off screen. And there's very little cursing, like real cursing.
Yep.
So there's no cussing, and there's no throwing around F-bombs and all that stuff. Larry Correa is the exception to the rule, as far as I can tell, because he fully admits that he's kind of backslides like that, but he's not afraid to use that language. I don't think I've actually read sex scenes in his stuff, but he's not afraid to use that language. So there's a little bit of a distinction there.
I'm not scared to use that language.
Oh, I didn't say you were. But you're not.
But I was reading that The Lives of Locke Lamora, and yeah, they're dropping language in there. I was like, why? Just okay, all right. I mean, I don't know. I don't know if I've become an old fuddy-duddy, and I don't want to see. Which is weird because, like, okay.
I'm not afraid to use that language either online or always. But I'm writing characters that use that language. Or online I don't care because I just don't care. But
I find it weird because, like, I've enjoyed Quentin Tarantino films, and they use language. They use a lot of language, and so does Kevin Smith. And I've enjoyed his films before. So I haven't seen them all. Some of the Jay and Silent Bob ones, I just don't care.
Yeah, I don't really enjoy most of what I've seen. It's not really. Eh.
Oh, there
Anyway.
are some that I think are great.
I have not come across anything that I would consider that.
Okay, that's fine. You don't have to.
Yeah.
But they are definitely
I would say
there are definitely some people that got famous because of their dialogue, and their dialogue was heavy with cursing.
Oh, yeah.
And I have no problem with it. In fact, actually, I can kind of appreciate it when it's done well. And I guess that's one of my complaints about that Lies of Locke Lamora is that I don't think the cursing is anything to write home. I guess, like, if you're going to do it, like make it worth it. And I don't see it being worth it. That's, I don't know. That's it's kind of a weird thing.
I don't think so. Either I agree with your mindset, or I disagree with that principle. I don't think it's getting old. I think it's taste. Like, but that might be correlated with the wisdom you gain from maturity. Because, I think the older we get, whether we want to or not, we kind of do get more mature. Because we get upset over things that wouldn't have fucking even occurred to us in our youth, right?
Right.
So, as far as use of language or even sex, like when I was a kid, when I was 12, 13, 14 or whatever, and I was reading, like, for instance, the Tor Conan pastiches by Robert Jordan and, Steve Perry and London Carpenter and all those guys.
Yeah.
Conan was always getting laid. And most of it was pretty much off screen. It would just be a paragraph mentioning it and then him laying in bed or whatever after that.
Right.
Or him going to the bar after that and getting trinkets. But there was a scene or two that I remember that were really memorable, weird sex scenes where, Conan was having sex between bars of a sewer tunnel. Yeah, this chick was an evil sorceress that, enthralled him or whatever, and he was railing her between the bars. But at 12 and 13 years old, that was fucking great. You know what I mean? That was the equivalent of, finding a Playboy or some shit like that. But as I got older and started reading more mature writing, I found, like, I was reading some spy novels and some, thrillers, and even mysteries where they're just unnecessary sex scenes. And I'm thinking to myself, why am I reading about these people having sex? Like, in reality, a murderer is after you. Are you really thinking that you're going to be cuddling up in a hotel room, when this murderer has found you like 3 different places before or something like that? And I think you'd be on the lookout in reality. I mean, I suppose it's where reality kind of separates from fiction, but fiction is supposed to show us, you know what I mean, a bit about ourselves and being real. So, like the cursing we were talking about, I don't think it's necessary all the time. Sometimes I do think it's necessary because like, we were talking about with John Brown. Um, he had convicts not really saying golly gee, but that the equivalent of golly gee instead of motherfucker, I'll kill you. Like what they would really say if they were ex-cons versus what they would say if they were ex-cons being told by a LDS storyteller.
Yeah.
So I guess what I'm saying is sometimes the absence of them is just as noticeable as the presence, but I think far too many people like read Stephen King and who called himself forever that writer that throws F-bombs into everything up north or whatever. Like, I think that was what he ended up using to, separate himself from the crowd. Because there was another horror writer that was a bestseller in this state. I bet you don't know his name.
No, I don't.
His name was Rick Hatula. Atula.
Nope.
I talked to him before he died, and his stories they sold well. But he wasn't that guy that threw F-bombs in everywhere up north. You know what I mean? He didn't talk about himself in that person. Didn't, choose the abusive guy to be the main star of some of the earlier horror stuff. So, and I'm not commenting on the writing styles just so much as that some people use that to their advantage. They use that saying, "Oh, I'm modern, so I can talk like this." But the character should be the character.
Yeah.
I think really the key to me when I'm reading is the character should be true to being a character, that the character that I'm seeing. And if he's not true to it, then I'm going to notice. And I think that you'll notice. Like, if I'm writing a character that would normally say something like that and I don't say it, I think you'll notice. Because if his speech is too clean, that was the thing with the John Brown thing. Like, it wasn't a bad book or anything, but it just it made people that were supposed to be really bad people talk like they were not really bad people. When every one of us knows that no matter where you are, whether you're in prison, whether you're on the street, whether you're in school, the people that want to convey I'm a badass the most talk like they're badass, right? They don't sit quietly, even though some of the real badasses will just not say anything. Most of them that want to be known as badasses, they can't shut up about it, right?
Right. Well, I think it's kind of funny when you think about. Let me go back to Eminem. I don't remember what the song is, but it's my favorite lyric from Eminem because he said Will Smith don't got to cuss him in his raps to sell records. Well, I do, so fuck him and fuck you too. And I thought, now that's someone who understands language.
Oh, well, all right, so
It's a different time. Will Smith and Eminem are two different markets, man. And the raps are two different markets. And
that's true, but Eminem's not up smacking people on stage either.
that's true. Of the two, which would you have ever thought that was going to happen to? Oh, that's kind of weird.
So I'm gonna link something, kinda. Well, not really link something. I'm gonna take some lyrics that I really like that throw around those F-bombs.
Oh.
and wouldn't be what they were without it, right?
Right.
So here we go. This is the breakdown of this song, and you probably have heard it, but if not, it's "You Can't Bring Me Down"
No.
by Suicidal Tendencies. And here we go.
Oh, goodness. That's a lot.
Won't let me do it because an error occurred. Did you see it?
No, because I'm seeing what's here.
Let's see if it lets me in the private chat. Oh, it did. It must be one of the standards.
Huh. Oh, whatever.
Just because you don't understand what's going on doesn't mean, or don't mean it don't make no sense. And just because you don't like it don't mean it ain't no good. And let me tell you something, before you go taking a walk in my world, you better take a look at the real world. Because this ain't no Mr. Rogers' neighborhood. And you say feel like shit? Yeah, maybe sometimes I do feel like shit. I ain't happy about it, but I'd rather feel like shit than be full of shit. And if I offended you, oh, I'm sorry. But maybe you needed to be offended. But here's my apology and one more thing. Fuck you. So, yeah, definitely it gets the point across that way.
Yeah. Sometimes you need to.
But sometimes it has a bigger punch.
Well, if you use it sparingly.
Oh, wow, it did kind of weirdly post that, didn't it?
Yeah, weird. It just broke it up.
No. Yeah. It only posted it on. YouTube. It only posted a little bit
On Twitch.
of a weird. The ending of it, the fuck you part, on Twitch. It didn't post that whole thing on Twitch. It only posted it. Maybe it says wait a minute, then try again. I don't know. Maybe it was too long or something. I don't know.
Yeah, who knows? Probably. Maybe that's all it is length.
Yeah, it's not super important, but it was just kind of important to the conversation, I guess.
Yeah.
Or relevant to the conversation, not important to the conversation. So, we're closer. Maybe the
Yeah, but it also
dancing man should be back here.
The if you look over the lyrics, like say from Rush, you know, because they were around, you know, they had I forget how many albums they had, plus, you know, they toured for over 40 years and all that stuff, and you know, all the albums they had, and they cursed once and all of that, and even then, I'm not exactly sure it's a curse because it's it's the song "Dog Years."
Singing bitch.
Yeah, and that's they say bitch. And I'm like, that's the worst they ever got. And I know they curse. They're human beings. But
well, they are Canadian too, so
I learned something new about Rush today that I did not know. What was it? The top charting song from any of the people from Rush is actually not a Rush song. It's Geddy Lee. Oh, what was it called?
Was
Which
this
is funny
when he
because
was filling in for John Entwistle?
no, he. Oh, screw it. I may just have to look it up. Oh, yeah, there it is. It's the 1981 song Take Off, which is actually by Rick Moranis and Dave Thomas.
Oh yeah,
I was like, that's kind of funny.
they got some Great White North. Yeah,
That's their top charting song
that's
from
great.
anyone from Rush. And I did not know that until today.
Well, I wouldn't have known that because I didn't know he was on that song, but I knew the song. Everybody knew the song in my day.
Well, in 1981, depending on what part, October of 1981, I would have been 2. No, 3. I was 3. I can math.
I was 11 and listening to Dr. Demento.
Yeah, well, I was 3 and not listening to much of anything.
That you know of.
Yeah, I mean, I could probably, I know, some of my earlier songs that I can remember, so I could probably trace it back. Oh, what year did... No, Beat It was 1982. So I know that was one of the earlier songs I could think of. Yeah. 81, I was not really listening to anything.
The first songs that I was listening to, independently of my mom, whatever she was listening to, was Toto, the Hydra. That was long before Rosanna and Africa. And Cheap Trick, the Dream Police, was a big album. But for us, me and my cousins were 11 and 12, the Dream Police meant more than, what the hell was that song on there? Let's see. What was these are Gonna Raise Hell. That was using naughty words. Gonna raise hell. Gonna raise hell. Most people would know the other songs off of it, like Dream Police and Need Your Love. Yeah. Things that stuck out to us was the naughtier words, but that's again, I'm thinking that's because it was the immaturity level. I loved the Hydra, even though the Dragon Lord was playing solitary instead of solitaire.
So I just looked up top 40 songs from 1981. I was like, well, let's see if now most of them I know, and I can remember them being on the radio. So I'm assuming I was listening to some of this, but most of these are not songs that I'm really all that into. Like, I remember Betty Davis Eyes, never liked it. And, like, that was number one.
Yeah, I think that was like my mom and my aunt, like that, like that.
Yeah, well,
That was not my age group either.
you know, like, there's a lot of Hall and Oates, and, you know, I was like, oh, all right.
Yeah, that was radio stuff.
Yeah.
You know,
I remember
when I was
Elvira.
11, that's all I heard was radio stuff. I wasn't listening to metal.
Yeah, well, Elvira was probably my favorite song at the time. It's kind of funny because there's a acapella group named Home Free. They covered it with the guys from the Oak Ridge Boys, and my son absolutely hates it. Hates it. Like if it's on in the car, he makes me change it. He doesn't make me change it, but he asks. He's like, "Can you please skip this?"
Yeah, that was my mom's music. I think actually, yeah, like that year and the next year, it wasn't Another One Bites the Dust out, right?
Yeah, Another One Bites the Dust was out that year, and I remember that. I remember being very young, and that was on the radio because I was very young.
That's when my mom, like, she married my stepdad, one of my stepdads, and he had very eclectic music taste. Like,
Yeah.
he had like everything. He had America. He had the band. He had Another One Bites the Dust. He had like Sonny and Cher. He had Black Sabbath right next to it. So it's like that's actually when I started getting interested in. You got a buddy here speaking to you.
Hey, Aaron. You just got there. Oh, that's right where my bar is. I remember listening to my parents' record collection, Beatles and Puff. Aaron, I remember listening to your mom's fascination with Neil Diamond. Which I have grown to appreciate a lot more. But I remember
Forever in Blue Jeans or something like that.
Yeah, I did several things.
Well,
Neil Diamond's one of those guys that just.
Christopher Cross was big then too, right?
Oh, I don't know.
Because I'm pretty sure I went to Florida.
Oh yeah,
when I was 11, and they had this kind of. Do you remember at the beginning of Reign of Fire where they were doing Star Wars as a play?
Yeah.
Well, they had this with a screen, so that there was a screen up between the audience and the actors, and you could see the lightsabers and stuff because it showed through the screen like that. Huh? So, but they were doing Star Wars, and all the music it was the B movie copy of Star Wars
Okay.
on stage, and the music was all Christopher Cross.
Oh, that's weird.
Like if you get caught between the moon and New York City and shit like that.
Huh. I remember being little and playing on the farm of one of my mom's friends who had several children. Were way older than me because like they would babysit me. And one of them was singing Another One Bites the Dust, and he told me it was about farting. And I was at that age where that was like the height of humor. So,
well, fart jokes never get old.
But farts do.
Yeah, but they're no less funny for it. Fucking the dog, the stepdog, farts.
Yeah.
And it's bad. It's
Oh.
fucking bad. Like, I'm laying there in bed and then I'll hear him poop. And within minutes, I'm burying my face in my shirt and my fucking pillow.
My son,
Yeah.
we've got a group chat for the family. So if I'm in a different room, I can just tell them all something all at once. And my son Thaddeus posted in the group chat earlier today. Be warned, the dog farted. It was audible. It's disgusting. I was like, okay. Like, everyone farts, kid. He's like, yeah, but she's
Sometimes.
pretending nothing happened. And I'm like, well, she's a dog. It was nothing to her. She'll lick her own butt. Who cares?
It's a natural bodily reaction. Yeah, right? Like, dogs eat cat shit. But
Yeah, they sniff butts on purpose.
I coughed up a piece of, I don't know, piece of cheese or something. And before it hit the floor, that fucking dog snagged it up. And I'm like, that's fucking gross. I'm like, dog. The dog.
We bought the
Take
dog.
a chance on, getting anything on your face when a dog licks it.
Yeah.
But the dog's tongue, this is two weird facts in a row that are related. The
Okay.
dog's tongue has enzymes that clean it. So it can pretty much eat whatever it wants and still have a clean tongue.
Okay.
Breath might smell like shit, but it still has a clean tongue.
Okay.
Cats, the enzymes, if a cat licks you, it'll heal you.
Okay.
Right? Well, I'm just saying, like,
That's
this
news.
if a cat licks an open wound on you, it will heal it because the enzymes on a cat's tongue speed the healing process.
That's nice.
And a dog's with enzymes clean its nasty mouth. So,
That's useful. We bought the dog a chew toy that was cheese. Literally, it was made 100% real cheese, but it was rock hard. I'm like, okay. And we gave it to the dog. She's chewing on it. She's enjoying it. She's liking that. And later on, I walk into my room and she's on my bed and she's horking up what looks like just the most. It looks like banana custard or something like that. I was just like, what the hell is wrong with my dog? And oh gosh, the worst part was she horked it up and then just hoovered it right back in. I was just like, oh. So
right.
I quickly realized it was the cheese that was bothering her, so we got rid of the cheese. But I was just like, oh, like that's definitely one of the worst things I've seen the dog ever do. Like I was pretty disgusted when she threw up. Man, when she just and sucked it back in, I was like, ooh.
And you could really never see that again and be happy. But
Yeah. Yeah. I'm trying to explain to the children why I'm retching. And every time I start to explain it, I just
on
start
the
retching
record,
more.
yeah.
It's just gross. I was like, oh, biscuits, you're so pretty and dainty and gross. Yeah. Oh, well.
Yep, dogs are fucking nasty.
I
Talking about your stepdog farting and, eating nasty shit.
oh, it's step farts.
No, there's no steps to it. It was just open up and boil it.
I'm saying if it's step dog, it's step farts. Oh, that's kind of funny. This list that I pulled up to see what songs are on there. John Mellencamp's on it, but it's listed as John Cougar.
Yeah, it was John Cougar Mellencamp for a long time.
Well, yeah, we started off as John Cougar.
Yeah, you're talking about like Hurt So Good and stuff like that.
Well, this is Ain't Even Done With the Night. My wife picked up. My son.
I'm surprised that your Karma Chameleon's not on there.
Oh no, that's later.
It's right around that time period.
Yeah, but I think it's later. Here, I'll just look it up. But oh, that's not how you spell karma. Anyway, yeah, that was 1983. Like I said.
Well, you just made me a hell of a lot more happy that I didn't go. Because I would not be paying $45 to sing in the crowd to Karma Chameleon.
Good.
No thanks.
I enjoyed the song. I don't care.
What?
I enjoyed the song. I don't care.
You can enjoy the song. You could enjoy the song with 40,000 other people for $45 too, if you want.
No.
I'm not gonna. The only Chameleon song I'd be getting would be Suede's song. Run Away, whatever it is. See, that's a waste on me. Because I care not what it looks like. I care not. I just hope it kills a lot. That was war. In case you didn't know.
I saw a post. I don't know if it's true. I should probably look into it more. Because you never know what you... Just because it's online, amazingly enough, doesn't mean it's true. But it said that Dr. Pepper is now the number 2 soft drink in the country. Which, while I enjoy my Diet Dr. Pepper, not a sponsor, I find that hard to believe.
Why so?
Because it means it beat out Pepsi. And I've been to lots of restaurants and some offer Coke and some offer Pepsi, but it's rare to find the ones that necessarily have, not super rare, but they don't often have Dr. Pepper. I mean, sometimes they do, but way less than Coke or Pepsi. If you go into a restaurant and you say, do you have Coke or Pepsi? They're going to have one or the other.
Yeah, usually it's one or the other.
But I mean, I get that people offer Dr. Pepper, but it's not always consistent. And it's rare to have Diet Dr. Pepper. Occasionally you'll have it, but I mean, Aaron, I agree that McDonald's and Taco Bell and Burger King all offer Dr. Pepper, but there are lots of restaurants that don't. And it's nowhere near as consistent as Pepsi or Coke, which is why I find it weird.
Well, I mean, it didn't used to be, because I know that Pepsi and Coke both actually own parts of restaurants,
right?
like Taco Bell, not Taco Bell, the other one, Taco Bell
Taco Bell and Burger King were both
slash
owned by PepsiCo.
slash Kentucky Fried Chicken. And Kentucky Fried Chicken,
No.
their parent company is Mrs.
PepsiCo.
Winners. Mrs. Winners and Mrs. Winners' parent company is PepsiCo.
Okay.
And then there's another one that's Coke that Coke has a stake in there.
Ugh. Had to sneeze. Just trying to hit the mic button, which I did. But, oh. Oh. Oh, my eyes are gonna water. Like, I don't know what it is. Something's bothering me.
What?
Oh, my eyes are watering. My nose is wanting to run. Wanting to sneeze. Just
Maybe you're getting
allergy.
that right now.
I don't know. It's because Thaddeus mowed the yard, but oh. Okay, I'll be right back. I have to get something to blow my nose. I just ran through the last of my tissues. Ugh. And yeah, definitely running out. I'll be right back. And I'm back. Ah, sorry. Thanks. Ah. Ah. Oh. I think I may be taking Benadryl before I go to bed tonight. I guess I'll sleep. Ooh. Whatever has decided to mess with me is definitely messing with me. Wow. Oh.
Hmm.
So how do you make the two the important characters stand out more?
They're in front.
Okay.
They're also, you have to have some consistency. You got to
Right.
see some of the characters that are in.
I was just curious. I mean,
You got to
because
see some of the characters that are in the background there, like
Right.
recognizably so that it feels consistent from the panel.
right.
Stretching for a second. So the first panel, 15 characters in that panel.
I'm sorry.
This panel, so far, I'm starting the fifth one. But because it's a close-up,
We can cut out a lot of people from the background.
what's that?
Because it's a close-up, you can cut out people from the background.
Well, I can put some shapes in, like faces. Like I want to put
Right.
this girl over here, but
Yeah.
at a different angle. That's this guy, but he's at a different angle. This guy, but he's at a different angle. So you recognize the people, but they're not at the same angle that you saw them at the first place. That indicates that they're moving, but they're there, right?
Yeah.
These are closer, so you know that they also are making eye contact. So these two being closer and making eye contact leads you to believe that these two are the main characters in this scene. But you can't tell here because it's not supposed to be able to be told here. You're just two characters. You describe them on opposite sides, and that's
Right.
where they are. So this is where they're getting ready to cross paths. And noticing her, it's a little bit of a smirk, not so much that you want to smack his face off like he's she's got a little bit of a smirk as if she knows she's got his attention,
Right.
which is key to the story, right?
Yeah.
The rest of it I can do a little bit more vague, but I think, with what this is right here, I still want to have some distinction in there. This isn't done, this is just rough pencils. And then once I've got this all laid out and I know the characters that are in and I'm satisfied with us being able to recognize these characters, then I want to go in and be a little bit more detailed on some of the stuff.
Okay.
And decide where I've decided where the light is, but only roughly. So there's a lot of stuff that I need to put in there to make that light correct. And then this panel, this is the one that I'm actually dreading because I don't really have any references of somebody blowing a kiss like that. But I've been thinking about that too. Just different parts to tell the story or how to tell the story best. I'm thinking actually maybe an extreme close-up of her mouth and hand blowing it. And then it's like her head's this big in this panel, this big in this panel, and then this one she's going to be facing out, and you're only going to really see the bottom half of her face, which is, you can't really see it much here. It's starting to come in to see the design of it here. So if we do a really good close-up of it here, you'll see the tattoos. And then, like, I just may stick with the, she's blowing it into his face and him turning to follow. So, yeah, it's just a matter of how to decide to do what to do with this panel. I really wanted to kind of take it and make it a longer panel and show her blowing into his face as she passes, but I guess I'll just have to see if I can find a good reference between now and the next time, because I think this panel is it for tonight. So far, it's been a panel at a time, but again, I'm not getting momentum and drawing more. I'm only touching this one when we're gonna stream, so that's why when they asked about how long is it gonna take to do these pages and stuff, and I just kind of laugh, because unless I get a lot faster at drawing every single panel,
right?
Which, the more you practice, the more you do, but unless I do get a lot more practice, then it's not going to be very fast. So we got one new follower last time.
Yeah.
We had some people watching us on Twitch, but Twitch was not commenting. A couple of people commented from Twitch.
Okay.
But we've lost watch hours. And we got more people joining and more people watching, but we're losing watch hours like a hole in the bottom of the boat. Now I'm running into trouble to try to figure out where we're going to put the box.
Check something. Gotta find that script. Oh, there it is. Oh, I had it open. Ah. Okay. So I don't know if it's absolutely necessary. Because on one hand, it's kind of, I mean, it's of the 2 pages. With captions.
Well, I'm actually supposed to be trying to tell the story in pictures so that you don't need the actual words to see what's going on. But
if I absolutely had to put a caption in, it could fit on the bottom.
yeah, but it's not. It's abnormal. And the first page probably shouldn't be the place we're doing abnormal stuff, right?
Okay.
I mean, just saying, like, I don't want to see, like, I don't want to be trying to figure out how I'm going to read stuff on the first page, because then it'll lead me to believe that I'm going to have to try to figure out how to read stuff on every page. I was thinking I could actually probably put the box right through here. I just didn't leave enough room. I mean, we might be able to put the box like right here.
Well, I'm telling you.
And we may not need a box in this panel. You're right there also. So.
Yeah. Like, I think we can make it work. So I wouldn't fret.
Somebody blew by.
Yeah. There's the stop sign at the start of the block, and then that's on, I guess, the next stop sign is like 12 streets away. It's relatively straight. So we get a lot of people who think, oh, yeah, now's the time to gun it. Which is also why I wake up plenty of times at night and there are flashing red and blue lights in my house because someone's pulled over in front of the house. Because they pull them over quite a bit.
So, ironically, because I chose to put, because I looked at that first panel and ended up going, there's not enough ethnicity in it.
Yeah.
But because I've done that, I've managed to go with a kind of simple classification for the people that are represented in there.
Sure.
So by staying with that multiple, like, he is now kind of Hispanic, Latin, for lack of a better term. There's black eye. This guy's a Native American. She's kind of a long face. I don't know what she's gonna be exactly, but I had an idea to make her Asian.
Okay.
And there's an Asian guy in there, so. And there's another Asian guy in there that's a different type of Asian. So now there's like only two white guys. That's the dancing dude.
Yeah.
And the guy who's trying to tell this girl about what his plans are.
Ah. I like how you have a story for these people. It's kind of fun.
Well, I've got ethnicity for them anyway. And I thought that it would be cool to use that, you know what I mean, to pull that in to the storytelling technique, I guess.
Okay.
They're all doing different things. They're all dancing a different way. This guy's literally doing the white guy dance.
Oh.
And the black guy's gone from having his arms raised, like going, oh, to snapping one finger and having a hand out, like he's spinning.
There was 1 year, speaking of white guy dance, that this was several years back. The guy's graduated now, but they were having a pep rally at school. And one of my students was kind of volunteered to be part of the thing, a white kid. And he was amazing. Like, way better than, like, no one else was like, no, never mind. He wins. Like, that was it. I was like, huh. It's kind of funny. Because, you know, the school where I am is pretty diverse. So, kind of surprised that a white kid was the one that was just, that's it. He's the winner. He was. Welcome. No, no, no. No, no, no. No, 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 no.
Well, the one
Not.
consistent thing people are getting right is that it's a party.
Yeah.
It's not in a bar, but yeah, it's a party. It's not a drug party that I know of.
I mean, it could be.
And
That's not going to be on the. That will not be explicitly stated on the page. Put that way.
Okay, that wasn't the original plan that I know of.
But it is a party. It's more of a street party, though. In a weird place.
Yeah, in a enclosed street, so it's a part of an enclosed city for the most part. Because it's a kind of a post-apocalyptic.
It's Polka Apocalypse.
Apocalypse.
That's
Then
weird
the
how-
plans Apocalyptica.
Yeah. No, said, looks hard to draw. How much time do you use per page? Oh, goodness.
No. This is
That's,
page one right now, but like I said, this panel has 15 people, and then this one actually has 6 now. It had 5. Probably going to have a couple more faces in it. This one's going to be closer. We're getting closer up. These people, they're going to be closer here, and then they're going to be the focus just of this panel. If they don't just be the focus of this panel and this panel. But we're trying to vary size, we're trying to vary expression, and tell the story with what's going on. These people are actually mostly background people, so that shouldn't matter a whole bunch.
Right.
But it does to me, or at least it does right now. That's subject to change.
Yeah, the idea. No. Yeah. Sounds like me talking to my children. No, 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 no.
I was thinking like nay.
Wow. But the idea is that we're trying to, for the most part, do an entire graphic novel on stream. Not like in one sitting, obviously.
Yeah, right.
That's not going to happen. Not with us. But we've created the character. We've got a script. Got our concepts. Yeah, that's the first page.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of a risk because we're not starting off with our protagonist. We're starting off with the incident, the inciting incident.
However, I do have this reference to our protagonist.
Oh yeah, we designed the protagonist.
That's the protagonist.
Yeah. Wait, leave it there. Leave it there. Leave it there. Put it back. Put it back. What? It's gonna make it bigger. Put it back. Back.
What?
Okay, put it down. There we go. So I just wanted to make it bigger. That's all.
Oh, okay.
Well, nobody really needs to see my bald head, but a picture might be.
And then the villain, or a villain.
Oh. See, I made it larger.
Ah. I keep taking it away because I don't want to have it there for any extensive amount of time while I'm trying to finish these panels.
Thank you, no. You said it's pretty cool, or she said it. I don't know. Whatever no is.
Well, let us know what. Can the villain grow spikes in other parts of his body?
Yes. To put it mildly. The idea of the villain is that he can absorb metals and then excrete them in simplistic shapes back out. Which is why we call him Shiv, because he can make blades, spikes, whatever. Simple things. Nothing like, he's not going to spit out a car or anything with moving parts, a bike chain or something like that. You can do like each individual part, but not a complete chain. And really, the more complicated it is, the harder it would be for him. So yeah, he tends to stick with spikes or blades or things like that. No, said like a combination between Magneto and Wolverine. That's pretty cool. You can do great drawings with that. Well, thank you.
That's much appreciated. Believe it or not, that wasn't the original graphic novel we were going to start on.
No, it wasn't, but
I think Willie Mastiff started as a throwaway character. Not really throwaway, just more of a sideline character.
yeah, but once he had the name,
But he grew on us really quickly.
Yes. We don't exactly know how long the comic's going to be. Part of that's because I've written, like Rich and I have both written things and gotten published before, but this is our first graphic novel, and so especially on my end, like I've written script pages, and then Rich has come through and and condensed and quickened the pace, all the good artist stuff. So it's kind of hard to say how many pages. I know that you were shooting for 50, right, Rich?
Yeah, like right around 50. Usually a regular comic book is 22 pages without the ads. We're hoping for maybe two to three of them. So we were saying between like 48 and 60, I think, but it's still an area because after 60 they get harder to ship and harder to make stay mint condition without getting folds and problems and so Rhett will probably write 70 pages worth. And I will condense it to about 60, and then I will draw and decide that I don't want to draw that much and condense it even further.
It's just not a bad problem.
And then Brett will come in and put in the dialogue and shorten it and make it.
I got rid of a whole page. We don't know.
No, we're not looking to get rid of pages.
No, we're not. But we also know how each other works, so.
We're trying to have fun as well. Because we're trying to write something we love. And make money doing it.
Hi, friend.
Hey, Efrain. Efrain's got a comic going too. He's a lot quicker than me.
No. I don't think we're going to do. Well, okay, so yeah, about 50 pages, 8 eventually. And then as for color, currently we have an idea for that, but it'll be basically monochromatic. I think that's the safest way of putting it. It's either going to be grayscale or red scale.
Yeah, mostly grayscale with some monochromatic different scales. Like we might do a red scale, we might even do like a green scale or something like that that's related, so that one means one thing and one means another thing. If we want to do flashbacks or something that's seen through somebody's eyes, or we've talked about a few different things. So are we out for the long haul? 50 pages in here. Well, yeah, inked, but I think I'm going to pick up speed quite a bit once. I'm still just getting some of these characters. I'm still developing. The ones on the first 3 pages are. None of those characters are going to actually probably be in the story later. Maybe him, maybe her. And that's a maybe. But there may be another issue sometime in the future too, so. I like this guy he's representing.
So, did you hear about Miss Alabama? I think it was Miss Alabama.
I don't think so.
So, the woman who won Miss Alabama this year is
A woman?
no, although that happened somewhere too. This is let's just say there's a lot to this woman, and it got me thinking about this because I guess I'm a narcissist and I try to make everything about whatever I'm interested in. But here's a woman that I would not say generally falls into the stereotypical or classical range of beauty. Put that way.
Or that's not the look that most people try to work
Aspire
for.
to. Yeah. And so I feel like this win is more about a statement from the competition. You know, it's a virtue signal, basically.
Sure it is.
And I got to thinking, this just shows how stupid some of these competitions are. And I think you could probably apply that to just about any competition where you're just judged, you know. It's not like a sport where you can clearly see who wins and who loses. It's just, oh, the judges think you win because the judges are going to judge. You know, it's just it. So, like writing competitions, art competitions, those kinds of things. I'd say Miss Alabama kind of indicates that, yeah, it's not necessarily a meritocracy at all. It's you got to have the right content for the contest's statement. You know what I mean? So this Miss Alabama woman, yeah, I mean, I'm never going to win Miss Indiana, sadly enough. I mean, I keep trying, but
Maybe.
I
Never
might.
know.
But yeah, I just think it kind of shows that, yeah, these competitions are not necessary. And I'm sure this isn't every competition, but how do you know a competition isn't rigged or has a political bias? And
Well, yeah, the more you see, the more you know that they are. So why enter, you know? That's like the competitions where it's a female sport or whatever, and they are just now saying that you have to be a natural female to be in that sport. Because it should have been obvious that male bodies have a strength and speed advantage that can be proven. So,
well, it wasn't like they were just like, you know what, I don't think women and men should play on the same teams. It was the women are getting dominated or would get dominated on most sports.
well, they were. And that was a few women who were top of their game pushed the issue. So, you know, those politically correct cause, I don't know, what do you call it, protesters? I don't know what you call them anymore. I don't really want to get anything out of it. They just want to not let you get anything out of it. But those people who are talking about underrepresented people now have to decide which underrepresented group they're going to back.
Yeah. It's kind of like that parade where it was a gay pride parade, ran into a pro-Palestine parade, and they started clashing because the pro-Palestinian parade wouldn't let the pride parade through. And
Right, And those people that are supporting Palestine while flying pride flags don't realize that if they were in Palestine, they would be thrown from the highest peak. That is literally what their religion calls for.
Yeah, I know.
No, and I kind of get sick of the "you're not supposed to talk about this" aspect. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, why can't we talk about it? We can talk about every gross thing in the world today, but we can't talk about true things. Like, you can push some nasty sexual shit on kids that they shouldn't have to even think about, but we can't talk about what's literally going on. I don't know. Oh, speaking of what we can't talk about, or shouldn't talk about, did you see that there's a good chance that Trump's going to have a mistrial?
Oh, because of that Facebook post?
Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
the judge emailed both of them, which he didn't have to, by the way.
I get that.
No, I'm leading to something by saying that.
Okay.
I think this is a plan, because if the judge says that and there's a mistrial, then he did all he could. You see what I mean?
Oh, that could be. I don't know.
So if Trump's freed or the mistrial or whatever. What?
Your audio is getting kind of gargly.
Oh, it does that. I have no idea.
I'll just pretend you have the same thing that RFK has.
Yeah, we'll just pretend that I'm saying anything.
Have you heard RFK speak?
No, I haven't bothered.
Oh, on one hand, he's very articulate and he does a lot of research, and that's kind of cool. But it is not a good sound.
I have heard that he's just a leftist that's distracting us from Trump or whatever. But I don't care, because I'm not voting for the dude anyway. I'm not wasting my time doing any studying or listening to him, because I don't think he's seriously got a chance.
I don't think he does either, which is why I find it weird. Although, I mean, I'll tell you. Well, no, I
Well,
won't.
that's what I said. I heard that he was there to distract voters from voting. All right, so the last theory I heard was that he's there so that neither Trump nor Biden get enough votes to claim victory. But he doesn't realize that they don't have to have over 50%. They have to have the most.
Right. Well, I don't know. I mean, it's one of those things where, I mean, you can wear the tinfoil hat as much as you want, and I've definitely done that before. I think that I don't think that was his intent. I'm not saying that I'll vote for him, but I do know at least I was happy he was willing to take on the establishment when it came to vaccines, but I think he looked at it as there's no way Biden's going to be able to run again, which, you know, God bless him, he is, supposedly.
Yeah, well, he's the incumbent, so
That doesn't mean he has to run. He could be like, I'm old. I can't do it anymore.
Yeah. Well, no, he doesn't have to, but he's going to.
Yeah.
So you were saying?
I don't know.
You were saying it was interesting. You were talking
Well,
about him.
I feel like he was trying to basically be a more centrist Democrat.
Yeah,
And
I'm saying that that's what he's supposed to sound like, but
yeah. But I think his intent was to provide an option so Biden didn't have to do it. But, Biden is just insisting on being the word salad maker in chief. So
I actually pity Biden, really. Like, I think that they shouldn't have even put him up for the spot. He's long since outlived his born-on date, Or
well, it's just like when you hear
best diffused by date.
Well, when they talk about how like Reagan had Alzheimer's, probably near the end of his term, and
it depends on who you talk to, because if you read the book written by Reagan's son, there's a lot of difference between what we know and what actually happened.
I'm just saying it's one of those things where it's just like, man.
Like, for instance,
I realize there are a whole bunch of other people that are there, but he's a bit old.
That whole tear down that wall.
Yeah.
He had it in his speech, and they removed it 4 times. So at the last minute, he just put it in there anytime. Or anyway, they removed it from his speech 4 times. They didn't want him saying it. So I don't know about Alzheimer's. I think all presidents get blamed for shit that they don't really have control over.
Yeah.
Because we tend to forget that Congress has a big say in whether laws are going to be made or funding is going to be granted. And they think that a president can just make a promise and get in office and keep it. And I do think a lot of them tried, and that was their goal. But I also think that they overlooked the fact that unless you're a Republican in a Republican-dominated Congress, you ain't gonna do shit. They're gonna do everything they can, obviously, to stop you. Because now it's not about what's right or wrong. It's about what the party wants, which is such a shame, because we started off being about differences of opinion making us stronger. That was the discourse, but we don't have any discourse anymore. One side wants to shout everybody down. The other side doesn't defend themselves, or has a weak defense at best. And we don't allow people. I don't know if you realize, but you can't get on a third party on a ticket unless you get more than 2% of the votes going out of the primary or something like that. It's ridiculous. They won't even put you on a ticket.
Right. So Mastiff is is a story about it's a post-apocalyptic world where the environment's gone crazy. So for the most
Not
part,
crazy for crazy food.
humans are kind of, for the most part, stuck in small, smart cities. If you know what Kowloon is or was, it's gone now, in Hong Kong, that kind of thing. But you know, like the type of cities where you never have to leave, that kind of thing. Anyway, so they have a group of messengers called Blood Runners who get messages encoded into their mRNA so that it can only be read by people who A, know that it's there, and B, have the right reader, basically. And someone has been going around, here are these couriers that should be indistinguishable from anyone else, but somehow someone has figured out how to target them because they've killed several, and Mastiff has to figure out what's going on.
So he's kind of like a detective, kind of like a tracker.
Yeah.
Mostly tracker, but he does detective work when necessary. That's about the right way to put it.
I would say so.
So yeah, like he's not an out-and-out detective. He's not like Sam and Twitch. But there's not really an out-and-out police force.
Yeah, it's really more like small police states in a way.
Right.
Like, it's a military, so So Mastiff is singular, and yeah, as I wouldn't say he's part of the military. I'd say he's currently a independent contractor. There we go. That's
Right,
good.
like a private eye.
Yeah.
And frequently in our time, space, and the real world, a lot of private eyes they track down people, or they're specialists in their field, so they're like a specialist on arson or a specialist on, like, you always hear divorce or whatever, but they don't always just follow people. Sometimes they're out to find out if someone's trying to cheat somebody out of workman's comp, or if there's a fire, they want to investigate if the fire was an accident or caused. They do accident scenes. There's a lot of different special fields for private investigators, and one of them is like a bodyguard also. So he pretty much does it all. So he kind of technically is a private investigator, but he uses tracking abilities more than most because he has special sensory related abilities.
Enhancements?
Abilities. we'll leave it at that. So we can decide whether or not they are mechanical or some of them
Biological.
born with right. It's an international land of mystery. Okay, he's an intercity state man with mystery.
Well, when you have city states, it's kind of the same thing.
Hmm. Oh. See this guy?
No, because it's off camera. Yeah.
That's this guy. He's got a finger. He's following her around.
Yeah.
I think maybe he's gonna be in the background of the next one too. The next one that there's a background to, so that on the splash page he might be one of the ones being held back.
Okay.
He's also the most mango looking dude. I mean, they kind of had to have a mango looking dude. True diversity, right?
Yeah, sure. Night, Aaron. Yeah, no. We'll worry about lettering. We plan a little bit, like where caption boxes could be, or word
Yeah, we're trying
bubbles.
to leave space for them, but
But this
we're
part
gonna-
doesn't need it.
we're gonna I'm either gonna letter it using Clip Studio Paint, or we're just gonna hire a letterer. I understand letterers are pretty decent priced for. Just depends on how quick they are.
Well, Rich, I hate to do this to you, but we've hit midnight.
Yeah, you're not doing anything to me. I was just about to say there's not really room to do any more. Like I may put a shade in, but that's it. There's no room for anything. And remember when we were talking about tangents?
Right.
That's why I changed this guy's arm from going up here, because it would look like he was reaching into the side of his head. But now it's pretty clearly behind his back. But
Yeah.
So yeah, that's pretty much it for tonight.
All right. Well, thank you for everyone that came and commented or just watched, or anyone who does watch. Don't forget to like,
Definitely.
subscribe, follow, all the
And
things.
we normally stream Tuesday, Thursday, and Saturday at 8:15 p.m. Eastern Standard Time till whenever.
Yeah.
Like, Brett's proven right that it's closer to 4 hours with this particular project, but normally it's been about three and a half hours. So yeah, I mean, we'd love to have you back. Love to have everyone comment and tell us what you like, don't like, or it's been very good support where people showing up saying that they like the expressions on their faces and they can read the action pretty well. So that makes me happy. But anyway, like Brett said, thanks for watching, thanks for hanging out, thanks for chatting.
Yeah.
Good night. God bless. Much love.
Peace.